Hi Virat. I'll send you a request in few minutes. We'll just wait for some people to join in. Hello guys. It's 7:30, right? Yeah. Anyways, I'll be posting this video later, so I think we can start. More people will join in, and maybe they can watch it later too. Anyway, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to this another session after a long break of Wildlife Weekly with Nikhil. And today our topic mainly is the media and wildlife, and the reason for taking this topic up was the recent release of the movie Sherni on Amazon Prime. I hope many of you must have seen that movie. There is a big part in that movie. I won't say big part, sorry, was there a problem with my connection? No. Anyway, so how media people deal with the conflict situation, especially when it comes to wildlife. And it was a big part of that case. And fortunately, I was part of the ground team which was working in that. I knew how all the things were moving, especially with media. But media also plays a big part, not just in conflict situations, but in other aspects related to wildlife also. And to discuss those aspects, I'm rather inviting today Virat Singh, him to the video. Hello. Hi Virat, am I audible?
Yeah, you are. You are. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Thank you for joining in today. I think I had mentioned the poster what Virat does, and he has done a lot of journalism. Few years back he left that, and now he's working on mainly communication with various entities, with various people, how to communicate all these things related to wildlife. So once again, welcome Virat, and thank you for coming in today on a short notice.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Nikhil.
To start off this live, the topic or the case that even both of us have discussed for a long
Yeah.
stretch, the Sydney case especially. And there were a lot of incidences related to that. There was a lot of media, I would say, storm going on throughout the nation, and lots of news coming in. So I would just like you to explain to all of us how basically the negative reporting that we talk about, that calling a tiger just man-eater kills somebody, or man-eater attacks something, or there's danger to human life. All these negative words, those come in media. How do you think they're basically how they impacted the Avni case, and how do you think in general a wildlife or conflict case or this negative reporting is seen when a media person tries to report them or write any story on that?
No, absolutely. But also, I mean, the whole beginning. I think it is important to bring in the perspective of, I mean, the entire beginning of how does that whole negative, which we now call it, or which we now better understand it. How does it start? Because honestly, if I go back, I worked as a journalist for 14 years. I worked with a tabloid. I worked with um, a, a community newspaper. Then I worked with a national daily. Now, when I go back I mean, when I started my journalism, I'm a BSc zoology, so there was a little bit of wildlife somewhere imbibed in it. But still, I have done some stories where I have mentioned man-eater to a leopard. I have mentioned things like there was a very funny incident where a leopard ventured into Hema Malini's house. This was way back, and my tabloid that time carried a headline called Cheetah and Geeta. It was a leopard, and the headline says Cheetah and Geeta. And I was next day I went and I asked, why? I mean, it's a leopard. Why call it Cheetah and Geeta? So the person who was on the sub editor who edits the copy and gives it headline said that it made a very nice, interesting headline because it's Hema Malini, so Sita and Geeta, so Cheetah and Geeta. Now that entire thing changes it, but still, sometimes we accept it. Huh? I mean, probably yes. You can. I mean, it's a blunder. I mean, ask me today, and I'll say it's a huge blunder. Because you're telling people the wrong thing. You're telling people that it's Cheetah. I mean, so these things, where did it take place? Anything. I mean, a media person who's reporting, I mean, finally, all they need is information. Now, I mean, immediately, whether, if there is an incident happening, I need information. If you remember, we went to Brahmapuri and I was asking you so many questions because Brahmapuri is such a big topic for any wildlife journalist. But imagine a journalist who's just starting his career, has been asked to do a wildlife story without any understanding of wildlife. Unfortunately, we do not have any training for journalists in environment or wildlife as such. Or, I mean, in journalism school, mostly, I mean, they cover a broad aspect. They will cover civic beat. They will invite somebody. But mostly, we don't have too much on wildlife and environment. It was only that, so at that time, imagine the impression on a journalist's head. That okay, and most of the time there is nothing called as wildlife beat. I mean, in journalism parlance, there's always a beat system. So there's somebody who will cover politics. There is somebody who will cover civic, which is your BMC in Mumbai. There's somebody who's covering crime. So there can be a crime reporter who's been asked to, cover a leopard incident where, there has been an incident which has happened. Now, on the ground, people are using word like man-eater. I'll tell you how, this whole man-eater also concept comes in. Once there was a leopard from RA, which attacked a few people, and it eventually also killed a person. So next day, obviously, there was traps set up for that leopard. The headline that one of my colleague put in was man-eater to be trapped, and I explained her that it's not a man-eater. So her concept immediately was no, it killed a person, so it's man-eater. It is just simple as that. Now, to explain her entire thing, and I said, no, I need to take time and explain her because I can't just let this headline go because it's again a negative headline. Now, to explain her, I had to tell her that, there is certain things. And then eventually I had to also tell her that probably, if you use this headline, tomorrow Forest Department can send us a notice also that it was not a man-eater and how did we write a man-eater. Now, so negative when we call, where does this come into our head? It is because it is being talked about. It is because we've not been told about these things. I have a 5-year-old daughter at home. I'm trying to tell her ABCD, and now we are bringing in words and explaining her. But for wildlife, how do we do it? We are already people as such. We are already very scared of wildlife. We have the normal terminology which we use is tiger आएगा और तुमको खा जाएगा अगर तुम बदमाशी करोगे तो अगर तुम जंगल के अंदर जाओगे तो टाइगर तुम्हें खा जाएगा. If you have a leopard, you see the images that is used. It is with 2 canines out and fangs visible. So it's already scaring us. So the impression that already any person has is of being scared of a wild animal. Now, this person becomes a reporter and this person starts reporting in the field. And when he starts reporting in his field, he already has these notions set in his head. उसके दिमाग में already ये बात है कि यार ये तो जानवर हमें मारता है. अच्छा, when we were reporting in Sanjay Gandhi National Park, I was always under the impression that the leopards are only coming out because there is no prey base inside. Because again, we are told about this. So I am reporting negative, but it is also because we have to see this, that there is also lack of information. Now, couple of years down the line, we started improving that we will, I'm sure we will discuss about that a little later. But this whole negative thing is because there is no information about it. There are certain preconceived notions which are not cleared in a reporter's head. And it is also that, if tomorrow, if there is somebody who's been consistently reporting on wildlife, probably that person would be more sensitive. Okay. But there are certain people, I mean, if tomorrow you tell me to report about, earlier if somebody asked me to report about the politics that is happening, I would first get scared. कि अरे यार वो मंत्रालय जाना पड़ेगा, and talking to a neta itself is so I'm more scared of them. And again, if I've heard something about a particular neta, I'll see that he's always corrupt. or if I've heard about a bureaucrat, oh, this is an excellent bureaucrat, because that is the ground information that I collect. And
Right.
that is where the birth of also negative reporting terms to wildlife starts.
Right.
Uh, I
And
hope I've cleared.
so I'm just taking this point ahead, and also what you mentioned just now, that you have been reporting for many years. So especially the Avnika case, how do you look at the reporting? Did it change, especially in the people you know who report on wildlife? Did that case change any perspective of the reporters, how to look at a wildlife reporting thing or content reporting, especially?
So I personally believe I always want to call this Avni T1 whatever name you refer. It is a, I mean, to call it a landmark. I mean, do not misunderstand the terminology that I'm using, but it's an epic case. To understand the media, the way media has been reporting. If I'm not wrong, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think she started. There was the first kill was around 2016 or something. If I'm not wrong,
It was
and
not
it went on to.
it was not her kill.
It was not her kill. But I mean, again, the general belief. 2016 से the first जो भी उसके नाम पे आ गया वो आ गया. And she was killed in 2018 November 1st or 2nd. I think I still remember that date because it was such a sad day for us as a reporter, sitting and getting this call, oh, that she's been finally killed. Now, इतना बड़ा time span, okay, and the way things started being reported about her. So now imagine you told me that it was not her kill, but everyone outside knows that it is her kill. Okay, she started killing. She was the man eater. Okay, she became the man eater. She had cubs. Now most of the journalists, most of us didn't even know the age of the cubs. So
Right.
most of the images, if you see in social media, was of those little tiny cubs.
Right.
So that perspective, I think somewhere, forest department was also at a major fault. They could have used this. I mean, from the time everything started, there had to be more clarity with journalists. I mean, because in initial only you said that we are talking about this film Sherni. I mean, the whole discussion starts from there. They have very nice. I mean, okay, we can argue about the movie, how it was shot, what the element should be there. We can always critique it. We can always look at it. But few points I was very interested. I was very touched because there's a scene where one fell who's played who's a forest officer, and he's traveling in the jeep, and he comes to a place, and there are 2 3 media persons and a photographer. Of course, I have a very very strong issue the way films depict journalists. So that's separate case. But yeah, when the journalists approach the that forest officer, his immediate reaction is, and again, it's very very important. Okay, it's very crucial. He says everything is fine. Okay. Now that means you're blocking information there itself. Okay. Then the second, when they start probing, the second thing that is told is that Ari, you will be briefed by a press release. Now here is an opportunity. Now let us, because we look at cinema in a very different way, look at, again, it's communication. Now I think every forest department officer who has watched this film, should pick up that scene and imagine and understand that that is where my first interaction is happening with the reporter, and that is where I need to start explaining him about it. That okay,
Right.
this is the case. I should not hide things from the because again, the going back to our first discussion that it started, that how will negative come in? Because I have told that the forest department says everything is fine, okay, or you will be briefed in a press release. Now we exactly know how the press release would come out. Now who will this press reporter or the reporters, who will they go and speak to? Okay,
Right.
biologists, conservationists, there will be, of course, there are all types of conservationists, there are all types of biologists. Most of the biologists, researchers, I will tell you, Nikhil, will not speak to the journalist. On record, probably off record, they will speak. Okay, they will also have to balance. They will have to balance. Now, imagine the kind of information that the journalist gets. There are most chances are that he might just pick it up from wrong people who would call this tigress a man-eater, who will say, or the people who are suffering. I mean, let us not forget that there are people who are suffering because
Right.
if there is a tiger which is moving in their area, okay, and now the fear, now how much time it takes. We all watch news channels. How do they depict the fear? How they will build this whole thing up, okay? अब इसमें इतना बड़ा information आ जाएगा कि, and all the information is not authenticated because it is not coming from the forest department, it is not coming from the researchers, it is not coming from authentic source because they have blocked themselves. So what do you expect? It will be negative on this thing because of the film. Again, I said that why I like this. Uh, I'm sure you must have watched it. There's a scene where the minister comes in, okay, and minister is standing. When there is actually a kill that happens in the jungle, sorry, in the farm, it's actually a bear kill, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, the Vijay Raj tells that okay, it's a bear kill because you can make it out. Now the Neta says that if 6 people out of 10 believe that it's a tiger kill. Now Vidya Balan is trying to explain the forest department. Now example, forest department is trying to explain the Neta log that भैया ये तो बेर ने मारा है. अब नेता क्या बिलीव करेगा कि भाई मीडिया का परसेप्शन क्या है. ओके, मीडिया का परसेप्शन ये है कि भाई इसने तो टाइगर ने मारा है. How is I mean, imagine the mammoth task, okay, of going and explaining that it's a tiger kill, sorry, it's a bear kill and not a tiger kill. अच्छा, उस वक्त अगर तुम ये सब करने भी लगोगे तो लोग ये कहेंगे कि यार अब तुम टाइगर किल है कि बेयर किल उसमें पड़े हो, यहाँ पे लोगों की जान जा रही है, तुम्हें उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. So there are several narratives which will be immediately set up. Now, this again cannot be corrected when the conflict is going on. You have to correct it when there is no conflict. That is why peacetime may, interacting with journalists or peacetime may engaging with journalists or peacetime may making whatever journalists around you, explaining them, talking to them is very important. And that is why I really hope this is a textbook case, not only for media students, but it's also for IFS probationers. It is also for current IFS who are posted. It is also, I believe, for conservationists, researchers, everyone. So Avni, I mean, imagine T1 becoming Avni. That's the whole social media part of, yeah.
We didn't call her Avni.
Exactly. I mean, so I know so many people, when we used to call up people, sir, I mean, the forest department asking that one particular officer that, sir, Avni case, अरे यार तुम उसको अवनी क्यों बुला रहे हो, ठीक है? Because you all are creating that whole, emotional which is being created, and that is what happens. It went out of proportion. Also, interestingly, I very very strongly believe, बहुत सारे लोग हम लोग ने फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट ऑफिसर्स, बहुत अच्छे ऑफिसर्स हैं, उनके साथ भी इसको बैठ के चर्चा की है कि सर ये क्या प्रॉब्लम हुआ, क्यों हुआ, वी हैव डन अ लिटिल दिस थिंग. आई थिंक had this been, see, there was a leopard which was recently, which was a couple of years back, was killed in Shahpur area. Okay, it was shot by a forest department staff. There was no hue and cry about that. Here, I think the way the tigress, I strongly believe, I don't know, I mean, you can disagree or agree with me or everyone here, but I feel the way this tigress was killed, I think there was the problem. There is no doubt that this tiger required removal. Okay. We can argue about everything and everything, but somewhere we have to understand that okay, if there is a pattern, you have to at least secure the tigress. You have to remove it from the place. Okay. अब उसके बाद उसको release करना है, क्या करना है, that can be discussed. That's the call that researchers take. Any person, there was a leopard in RA colony, and it killed some. It was suddenly there was a spurt of attacks on children. Okay. Now all the reporters who are reporting sensibly, there were stories was that okay, this leopard requires removal, and at the same time uske kuch mahino pehle there was a leopard which was being spotted again in RA colony only, and reporters did a story in Mumbai saying that do not, because traps lag gaye, because there was pressure from some political party, but उस वक्त reporters ने कहा कि नहीं इसको trap मत करो. So reporters also understand that जहाँ पे, because अगर उनके पास information है, they would not demand unnecessary trapping. Now even as a journalist, now imagine, I told you that as a journalist my understanding earlier was that what do you do when you see a leopard? Trap it. Okay, why did I get this information? Because the forest department told me. The forest department told me that okay, whenever we see a leopard, it should be trapped. Now ये कैसे उन्होंने डिपिक्ट किया? Because हमसे जब मीडिया से जब वो फोन पे बात कर रहे हैं, तो they are telling us कि that अच्छा, मैंने पूछा सर ये लेपर्ड एक वहां पे कंटिन्यूअस एरिया में दिख रहा है, क्या करना चाहिए? तो वो कह रहे हैं कि नहीं, इसको हम लोग ट्रैप केज लगाएंगे, ट्रैप कर देंगे. अब कहाँ छोड़ेंगे, क्या करेंगे, हमको कुछ पता नहीं है. ठीक है, कुछ और सोल्यूशन. एंड दैट इज व्हाई बिटवीन 2002 and that period there was a huge rise in leopard attacks in and around Mumbai. But again, coming back to of course our T1 case. So I think forest department also messed up in a big way. They didn't take this case very seriously. I'm sure there were a lot of officers who wanted to highlight this case in a proper way, but somewhere it was not highlighted as.
बहुत हुआ था. So now coming to the second part, we spoke about negativity, but you have also worked where positive reporting has helped a lot, created a lot of good awareness in the locals, and that helped control the situation, and maybe for the forest department to easily handle that. Not easily, I would say, but better
Yeah.
handle the situation. So basically, Mumbaikars for SGNP, the leopard
Yes.
case in RA, which you also reported on, and you reported it positively. So the other side of the coin. So what can you tell us about that? When say researchers tell you the data, when department cooperates, when people understand how all that works positively.
So again, I divide the whole Mumbai ka reporting into pre 2013 and post 2000, 2011 actually, हाँ 2011-12 उसके बाद और उसके पहले का. पहले हम लोग जैसे मैंने बताया कि when we started reporting initially, मतलब जब मैं 2005 में I started my journalism career and उस वक्त जब रिपोर्ट कर रहे हैं तो वही रैंडम इंफॉर्मेशन, मतलब फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट के ऑफिसर तक ने कहा हुआ है कि शायद अंदर प्रे खत्म हो रहा है, इसके लिए लेपर्ड बाहर जाके वो कर रहा है. नाउ इमेजिन दैट इज द इंफॉर्मेशन दैट यू आर फीडिंग अ जर्नलिस्ट, यू आर टेलिंग अ जर्नलिस्ट दिस थिंग. जर्नलिस्ट विल ऑब्वियसली रिपोर्ट दैट. बट 2013, 2011, 12, some good things happened. One of which was Sunil Limai sir, now who's the chief wildlife warden. He came in Sanjay Gandhi National Park, and of course Dr. Vidya Atreya, she was there. एंड इसके पहले सबको पता है कि यार नेगेटिव रिपोर्टिंग हो रही है और देयर इज अ परसेप्शन. एंड सी जर्नलिज्म का सबसे बड़ा इशू ये, मतलब सबसे बड़ा एस्पेक्ट ये है कि वी क्रिएट पब्लिक परसेप्शन, वी क्रिएट अ पब्लिक ओपिनियन. सो जब मैं लिख रहा हूँ कि अरे मैन ईटर इज देयर, इमेजिन सुबह सुबह कोई चाय नाश्ता करके पेपर पढ़ रहा है, उसमें देख रहा है कि यार आरे में एक मैन ईटर घूम रहा है, ठीक है भाई, वो पेपर बंद करके बोलेगा नहीं इसको ट्रैप करा दो. सो यू आर बिल्डिंग दैट परसेप्शन. बट वहीं पे तुम बोलो कि भाई आरे में एक लेपर्ड रहता है जिसका वो घर है, ठीक है, तो वो परसेप्शन अलग बनता है. सो 2011 दिस एंटायर थिंग स्टार्टेड, मुंबई का फॉर एसजीएनपी टुक बर्थ, and it was really a landmark. Again, it was such an important thing that was needed in Mumbai, because again, see, it's when we discuss this, so there's a wildlife biologist and there's a forest department, there's a manager. Okay, they come together, they decide that yaar kuch karna padega, we need to do something about this, we need to create awareness about this. And what they simply did is they initiated
Hello,
this program. In this program they had,
hello,
sorry,
am
can
I
you hear me now?
audible? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are. Am I? Can you hear me?
No, I'm not able to hear you.
Okay.
Connection.
I can hear you. Now I can't hear you. I think, is it? I can hear you
No.
clearly.
I think if you can end this chat, I'll just add you again in the same chat.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll just remove you and add you to the same chat. Okay. Guys, let me know if you can hear me. Okay, great. Then why am I not able to hear Virat? Let's just see. Okay, then there's some problem with my internet connection. Yeah, now we are back.
Okay. So yeah, so I don't know how much we were discussing about. I mean, how much did we miss? So 2011, this whole Sanjay Mumbai ka first SGNP report project started. Isme they wanted to do science, of course, biologists and everyone wanted to science, because with science you give journalists information. Okay, so is trapping a good thing or not? Is there a prey base or not? How do you inform journalists? Now you cannot. I mean, tomorrow forest department, which has been telling me that there is no prey base, suddenly tells me, oh no, there is ample prey base. I will ask, no, भाई अभी तक 2 साल पहले तक तो prey base नहीं था, अचानक से prey base कहाँ से आ गया? So they thought the best thing to give journalists is authentic information, science. So that will be again science collect हो रहा था. Then they were engaging with the citizens, they were engaging with people on the periphery. They were also decided that they will engage with BMC officials, police, because most of the times they are the first respondents. And they decided that yes, we need to engage with the media. Now this is for the first time. I don't know if it has happened in that, I mean, 2011-12 period May. I think this was the most unique thing. जहाँ पे we suddenly the journalists started feeling welcome, in a forest area, in a Sanjay Gandhi National Park के forest department में, and there is a CCF who's a director of the park, asking us for our suggestions and critique and asking us कि नहीं बताओ कहाँ पे problem है. And so for journalists also initially it was shock, there are friends, Ranjit is there, other friends are there, Snehal used to report from HT, then Badri started reporting. So most of us were in shock कि भाई ये journalism में कैसा कैसे हो गया, मतलब हम तो normally, we are always on the other side, and forest department is always any which way in their territory and we are in our territory. But here there was uniquely we came together. Now what would they do with journalists? I mean, खाली चाय कॉफी से तो बात होगी नहीं. ठीक है. So they started doing these sessions for journalists, okay, where biologists for the first time started explaining journalists कि भाई leopard behavior क्या है. Now the thing is कि they didn't want us to they didn't want us to suddenly leave journalism and become biologists, okay. So the kind of information they wanted to share was very crucial. Now it's not that the first meeting में they shared some amazing information. It was always, trial and error. कुछ ट्राई किया, कुछ एरर हुआ, फिर थोड़ा सोचा कि अच्छा नेक्स्ट सेशन में थोड़ा इसको इंप्रूव करते हैं, बायोलॉजिस्ट थोड़ा कम बोलेंगे, फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट थोड़ा ज्यादा बोलेगा, या फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट थोड़ा कम बोलेगा, बायोलॉजिस्ट ज्यादा बोलेगा. अच्छा, ऑल्सो व्हाट काइंड ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन डू यू वांट टू शेयर विद द जर्नलिस्ट. So that was the first time that it started working in a way that we started understanding that okay, now trapping a leopard is actually a problem. Because science, there's a research, there are other papers, there is a biologist coming on record and telling us that trapping is actually a problem. तो हमको तो लगता था यार ट्रैपिंग सोल्यूशन है. हम जब भी स्टोरी करते थे तो हम ये लिखते थे कि भाई यहाँ के लोग बोल रहे हैं कि लेपर्ड ये है, मतलब एक लेपर्ड दिख रहा है, इसको ट्रैप करने की जरूरत है, हम भी इसको सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं. नाउ सडनली द जर्नलिस्ट स्टार्टेड शिफ्टिंग एंड सेइंग दैट कि नो, वी नीड टू नॉट ट्रैप अ लेपर्ड, वी नीड टू ट्रैपिंग इज नॉट अ सोल्यूशन. Then suddenly there was the second thing was कि भाई what about the food, the prey base, okay. So again there was science. Luckily Vidya, Nikit started doing the studies and the reports started telling us that okay, there is enough prey base in the Sanjay Gandhi National Park. But as Nikit Surve keeps calling that for leopards from Sanjay Gandhi National Park, dogs are like vada pav for Mumbaikars, So they always come out for junk food. So that's there, that's there. Now imagine the way this is being, explained to a journalist, okay? Jisko agar even, and this sessions had journalists who did some reporting earlier and some new guys also who just joined and wanted to hear. Now that it's not that एक session, दो session में सब कुछ ठीक हो गया. Gradually it took time. Now the things are changing. Now if you ask me how has, if you describe, if you ask me कि भाई ये project को describe करो, okay, I'll say it's still going on, okay. After Sunil Limai sir, there was Vikas Gupta sir. He took this ahead. Then there was Anwar Ahmed. He took it, and now Mallikarjun sir is there. He's taking it forward. So you and these projects cannot be one person's plan and then वो person जैसे ही shift हो गया.
Biologist, media, and department. I guess that's the biggest achievement.
Absolutely. That this was the first time where these all different stakeholders coming on one platform and discussing these things that help. And I think that is where, this whole idea of exchanging information, exchanging discussion, equipping journalists started. And then we also started doing, sessions for, like Nagpur mein we did one together. Then we had in Shimla, we had in different places, because for the first time, again, you're looking at, okay, that you can engage with journalists. Now, how do you engage with journalists is again subjective. हम लोग we will keep trying and we will keep experimenting. Okay, कि कितना बताना है, कितना नहीं बताना है. But at least basic knowledge तो दो ना. मतलब at least start talking to them. Take them. अभी जैसे संजय गांधी नेशनल पार्क में when there are sessions, फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट का स्टाफ के साथ हम लोग ट्रेल पे जाते हैं, नेचर ट्रेल पे जाते हैं. अब वहां पे दिख रहा है कि यार बहुत सारे जर्नलिस्ट, ठीक है हम लोग रेगुलर जाते रहते हैं, वो बात अलग है, बट बहुत सारे जर्नलिस्ट जो पहली बार आ रहे हैं, ओ माय गॉड दिस इज संजय गांधी नेशनल पार्क, अच्छा इतना बड़ा है. अच्छा, बहुत सारे लोगों को लगता है कि टाइगर और लायन संजय गांधी नेशनल पार्क में है क्योंकि दे आर इन कैप्टिव. तो कैप्टिव का क्या डिफरेंस है, वाइल्ड का क्या डिफरेंस है वो समझना. रेस्क्यू सेंटर है उसका क्या है, ओके रेस्क्यू सेंटर में क्या हो रहा है. अच्छा, एक लेपर्ड आपने उसको रेस्क्यू करके लेके आया तो कैसे किया. आई विल गिव यू अ वेरी सिंपल एग्जांपल. Now though I mean this happened when I'm no longer a journalist. A big project which I used to write about, of course, was radio collaring of leopards in Sanjay Gandhi National Park. So 5 leopards were supposed to be radio collared in and this was the first in Mumbai. 2 projects are going on. I think one is in Junnar and one is in Mumbai. So Mumbai का जो project शुरू हुआ, तो again the first aspect it was that okay we need to inform the media about it. Now, what is the way? Now, it could have easily been कि भाई हमने तो रेडियो कॉलर कर दिया, हमको इन्फॉर्मेशन देने की क्या जरूरत है फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट को. But it was thought, no, we need to tell people that why is it important? What is this radio caller all about? So, sharing information is coming from the forest department and the biologists working. So now you're ready to share information. Now, how do you share this? Now, if you call everyone, all the journalists to भाई radio leopard को radio caller हो रहा है, now imagine the chaos. So everything was done. There was video taken, there was photographs taken, there was video bites given for electronic media journalists. तो सारा कुछ prepare करके there's a WhatsApp group operated by the forest department for the journalists in Mumbai. Now, इस पे ये information डाल दिया, सब कुछ सारा जैसे ही अभी रात को शाम को उन्होंने ये किया रेडियो कॉलर किया और सुबह अर्ली मॉर्निंग दे जस्ट इंफॉर्मेशन आउट देयर इन पब्लिक डोमेन फॉर जर्नलिस्ट. नाउ जर्नलिस्ट, अब जर्नलिस्ट के पास है इंफॉर्मेशन कि भाई ये रेडियो कॉलर इसलिए किया, रेडियो कॉलर कैसे करते हैं, रेडियो कॉलर दिखता कैसे है, कितना दिन चलता है, ऑल दिस इंफॉर्मेशन इज इन देयर. Now imagine this is technical information, still you're taking that effort, you know. So again it is about that how much are you now. You can, I mean, forest department या हम लोग सब लोग, you know, कि अरे सारा मीडिया नेगेटिव रिपोर्ट कर रहा है, you know, everything is gone to the dog. I mean, nothing is good in this world. Everything is, nobody wants wildlife stories, only negative stories. Why are you calling it man-eater? But what is the effort being taken to also talk with the journalist? You know, अगर आपको एक जर्नलिस्ट पता है जो शायद 3 बार उसने गलत मैनीटर लिखा है, तो has someone tried to reach him out, try to talk to him कि भाई क्या प्रॉब्लम है, आप इसको मैनीटर नहीं बोल. अभी आधे, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि you know there is the whole man-eater concept is such a thing that अगर एक आदमी को भी मार दिया तो मैनीटर, तो टेक्निकली तो मैनीटर हो गया ना भैया, कि you know it's a man-eater because it's killed a man and it or a human and it's eaten the flesh. But to explain that, okay, the reasons behind it, now that is what you need. Now, can you do this in one session with journalists? No, you can't. It takes, I mean, imagine started the whole project in 2011, it's still going on. Has all the problems of, you know, negative reporting been solved in Mumbai? No, it has not. But it has changed in a major way, you know. So these are the changes that come in over a period of time.
That last part, the change that maybe you're also a part and maybe put in. Before I ask you that question, all participants, if you have any more questions regarding this particular topic, do put them in the chat box. And if you have questions.
Sorry, Nikhil, I missed the last part. There was a call. Sorry.
I was just asking all the participants to put any questions which they have in the chat box. So yes, this last part. Where we are now trying to change something. Even now, I get calls about my research from reporters asking what I'm doing, what exactly is important from this research, or the work that you are currently doing, training the IFS people about how to communicate, or basically communicate, not just media, but how to communicate. So, how do you see the future, say, after 5 years down the line? If we keep doing this, do you see, or rather, do you see right now there's a change that has happened in the department people or even in the media people that you know that maybe they are trying to contact
I think I'm audible, right?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. Okay. So there is a change. There is a change coming. In between, there was a session, you know, in a college we were discussing it with journalists and with the media students. So वहाँ पे किसी बच्चे ने पूछा कि sir, anyway, who reports on environment? I mean, there are hardly any reports on environment and wildlife. I said recently I read a story, and that time I was of course working as a journalist. I said recently I did a story, and I read at least four stories in mainstream newspapers, saying that there are two friends, you know, described a dragonfly from Sindhudurg district. Now, if that story is coming in papers, that means yes, wildlife. I mean, this thing is being reported. You know, marine life pe suddenly there's so much reporting on turtle stranding and all those things. Now, why? Because what you said, Nikhil, is very crucial. That you know you are getting a lot of calls, and why? How will this reach people? You know how? So you are trying to communicate. So communication will be, of course, the most important thing. That you know now Nikhil can't sit and say that, "Arey, a reporter like Virat or Badri or you know Akshay or Ranjit should call him up and then they will ask me about my research." Because most of the researchers still are stuck to their that you know I'm not. I mean, after this, you know, don't. I'm not saying that you should not be proud of the papers that you all do, but your research papers, your describing well, your papers which you all get published is only read by people who are already interested in it. Okay, or maybe not even those guys must not even be reading it. Okay, but if it is covered in a newspaper, if it is written by a newspaper that यार एक dragonfly का कुछ तो describe कर दिया है, एक gecko का नाम कुछ तो एक डाल के रख दिया. Now naming geckos also naming any species becoming interesting because researchers also realizing कि if it is named after Salim Ali, probably people would get interested. Okay, so you're doing a lot of things that way. So how do you communicate anything is very 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 important. अभी जैसे हम लोग अभी we were talking about you know now my work where I'm working, I work with Asar, which works on climate change and air pollution on these topics. We were just thinking that, okay, how should we talk about air pollution? Okay, again, the whole campaigns strategy and all that we talk about, communication strategy. We decided that, okay, now how do you tell people that you're breathing in polluted air? The thing is, if I give you a water to drink, that is what we were discussing. If I give you a water to drink and put two drops of ink in that water, and I tell you now you can drink this, you would never drink this because you're visually seeing it. Okay. So then what we thought that how do you tell people that you're breathing in air, because you can't see the air that you breathe. So we decided that let's put a huge, giant lungs billboard, which are made of HEPA filter. Now, धीरे धीरे करके वो lungs जो है, because that HEPA filter material which is there, because it is kept in open, वो धीरे धीरे काला होने लगता है. So Mumbai में we kept it at Bandra, and in Kharghar we kept it. In Kharghar we kept it. Now these two places, Mumbai में it became absolute pitch black in 14 days, and Kharghar some 10 or 12 days. Now visually people are seeing. Now of course, I mean it doesn't operate. Our lungs don't operate like कि 12 दिन में एकदम काला हो गया. It doesn't operate in that way. But at least you're telling people that this is what is happening in your system. Now, the same way, when we talk about the wildlife thing, now the first respondents are the forest department. And I'm really, really happy and I'm really glad that suddenly everybody wants to now engage with the media. Okay. So there is IGNFMA, there are courses where, like GIZ or WCT or WTI or others are trying to do these sessions for, the forest department probationers, that how do you engage with the media? Also, देखो जैसे there's this perception that यार media तो negative ही report करेगा. Okay. Now these IFS officers who come in on the field, they are also coming on the field. Now, what is the best advice? I mean, one very young IFS officer, and he's posted in Maharashtra only, he was telling me, what my boss gave me a suggestion on how we were discussing about how to deal with the media. And he said, my boss just gave me a simple, best advice how to deal with the media, ignore them. Okay. So, and I said, नहीं बाबा ऐसा मत करना, सब गड़बड़ हो जाए. बोलता नहीं यार, ये तो नेगेटिव ही छापेंगे, मैं कितना भी पॉजिटिव कराऊंगा. And then we had a long discussion that, okay, this needs to change. So there are a lot of IFS. I recently did a workshop for GIZ with IFS probations. The kind of questions that come in are so amazing because they are also trying to understand how media is working. They want to understand what a newsroom looks like. Now imagine, I'm not calling the media the problem here, but I'm saying that if there is a problem in front of you, you would want to understand the problem first and then try to resolve it. So if forest officers are looking at the media as a problem, you'd want to identify that, okay, ये कैसा structure होता है कि रिपोर्टर तो स्टोरी लिखता है, लेकिन उसके ऊपर एक सब एडिटर भी रहता है जो उसको क्लीन करता है, ग्रामेटिकल क्लियर करता है और वो हेडलाइन देता है. ओके, बायलाइन भले उसकी जाती है, फिर वो एडिटर उसको स्टोरीज पेपर में प्लेस करवाता है, बोलता है हाँ ये पेपर में फ्रंट पेज पे जाना चाहिए, सेकंड पेज पे जाना चाहिए. Now these interactions are very important, and this is about the forest department. Now I feel that researchers also, and I'm really again very happy that so many young researchers have now started writing a press release, which is such a thing, and initially वो बहुत ही ज्यादा scientific होता था. But then अब बहुत सारे जो seniors हैं, like I know Varad Giri and all these people, they will also explain these young researchers that यार इसको simplify कर दो. Okay, do not write, because you are sending it to a journalist who probably has never even उसको difference भी पता नहीं है कि dragonfly और damselfly में ये क्या है, तो उसको तुमको समझाना पड़ेगा. So now these things are very important for researchers, for biologists who are trying to put out their study out there. Now, if you're doing a study on any, I mean, you yourself have done so much work across, in Maharashtra. Now, if you want to communicate to a journalist, how do you communicate to a journalist? Okay. The first thing is that you cannot talk as a researcher, as a scientific, with that, if you come to them, उसको बेचारे को कुछ समझने वाला नहीं है. उसको आपको ABCD से थोड़ा समझाना पड़ेगा, उसको बताना पड़ेगा, अच्छा ये होता है. You also have to be ready to engage with him. You have to be ready to answer calls at 9 PM also at times, because the journalist को suddenly desk वाला जो edit करता है वो शायद एक question पूछेगा कि यार ये तो सिंधुदुर्ग में मिलता है, ये जैसे हम लोग को हमेशा आता था कि वेग्रेंट स्पीशीज क्या है, जैसे बर्ड कुछ कोई दिख गई तो व्हाट इज वेग्रेंट. नाउ हाउ डू आई bloody describe what is vagrant bird, I mean to my sub editor, या ये माइग्रेट करके सडनली कहीं से तो वो खो के पहुंच गया, अब उसको कैसे समझाओगे तुम उसको, तो जब आप जर्नलिस्ट से बात करो तो आपको उनकी लैंग्वेज में, कॉमन मैन की लैंग्वेज में बात करनी है. नाउ इफ यू स्टार्ट टेलिंग हिम वेग्रेंट स्पीशीज दैट गिविंग हिम सम साइंटिफिक नेम्स, वो बेचारा खो जाएगा उसमें, उसको कुछ समझेगा नहीं. So then engaging is important. The way you engage, how you engage is important. So that's why all this Nikhil boils down finally to how do you communicate. नाउ कम्युनिकेशन का फंडा ये है कि जब आप किसी से कम्युनिकेट कर रहे हो, ठीक है, इफ यू आर टॉकिंग टू मी और इफ यू आर आस्किंग मी, यू विल ऑब्वियसली, वी विल हैव टू बी समवेयर ऑन द सेम लेवल. You cannot talk to me with the way you talk to your peers. I mean, you could speak in your zoological or botanical language, but you can't speak with me like that. Yeah, so you have to talk to me in a common man language. और आप मेरे को बताओगे, अच्छा फिर आपको, अच्छा मैं तो खाली एक नहीं हूँ जिसके साथ आपको बात करनी है, आपको अलग 30 लोगों से बात करनी है. दैट इज व्हाई यू हैव टू राइट अ मीडिया रिलीज. नाउ हाउ डू यू सेंड अ मीडिया रिलीज? यू कैन सेंड इट टू देम ऑन अ व्हाट्सएप और एन ईमेल. व्हाट्सएप इज द बेस्ट थिंग. अच्छा, जब आप मीडिया रिलीज देखते हो तो अब आप कम्युनिकेशन तो आपने कर दिया, आपने बोला मेरे को मीडिया रिलीज भेजना, मैंने भेज दिया. लेकिन आपने अगर एक मराठी जो रिपोर्ट करता है, एक जो मराठी लैंग्वेज में रिपोर्ट करता है, आपने उसको इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज में भेज दिया, उसके कुछ पल्ले पड़ने वाला नहीं है. ठीक है, या इंग्लिश वाला जो रिपोर्ट करता है उसको आपने मराठी में एक प्रेस रिलीज भेज दिया, बेचारे को मतलब मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स ही वुड गेट लॉस्ट इन दैट अगेन द लैंग्वेज थिंग. सो प्रोबेबली नाउ यस यू विल हैव टू, योर वर्क इंक्रीजेस. अब आप उसको 2 लैंग्वेज में भेजो, या आपको लगता है कि एक हिंदी भी है तो उसको हिंदी में भी भेजो, बिकॉज यू वांट योर वर्क. नाउ दिस इज अ टास्क. Now, I'm also on IUCN's Human Wildlife Conflict Task Force, and there, when we were discussing this, somebody said that it is increasing the workload of a biologist or a researcher. But I feel that somebody who's working on this field, okay, somebody who's doing this work should ideally put in that effort, because then you cannot complain that सब कुछ नेगेटिव चल रहा है. रिपोर्ट, मैंने एफर्ट ही नहीं लिया, निखिल ने एफर्ट ही नहीं लिया कि विराट को समझाए कि यार मैनीटर या उसको मॉन्स्टर क्यों नहीं बुलाना चाहिए, या मुझे इंफॉर्मेशन ही ना दे, और उसके बाद एक्सपेक्ट करे कि यार मैं एकदम अच्छे से रिपोर्ट करूं. आई मीन इट इज नॉट पॉसिबल. So these efforts on communicating, and it will take time. When an IFS, I mean, when biologists talk to a journalist, it's a different thing. When IFS talk to a journalist, it's a different thing. When an RFO talks to a journalist, it's a different thing. So I'm also a very strong opinion कि देखो अभी क्या होता है, जर्नलिस्ट के लिए बहुत सारे मीडिया वर्कशॉप्स होते हैं कि भाई जिसमें बायोलॉजिस्ट और ये सब आके बोलेंगे. कितनी बार जो रिसर्चर्स और जो बायोलॉजिस्ट हैं उनके लिए कितनी बार मीडिया सेशन हुआ है कि हाउ डू यू अंडरस्टैंड मीडिया, या कितनी बार फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट के लिए आरएफओ से लेके ऊपर तक, क्योंकि यही है जो मीडिया से इंटरेक्ट करते हैं, वो होता है. अभी आरएफओ अपने लेवल का इंफॉर्मेशन दे देगा, उसके ऊपर अगर डीएफओ है तो डीएफओ अपने लेवल से इंफॉर्मेशन देगा, या somebody else is there, they will give information in their own way. Okay, now you have to bring it down in a way that what you are trying to convey. अभी just a simple case, अपनी T1 का ले लो, ठीक है, समझो वहां का आरएफओ बोल रहा है नहीं नहीं भाई इसने तो 4 लोगों को मार दिया, ठीक है, डीएफओ कुछ और बोल रहा है, सीसीएफ को कुछ बोलना, बिकॉज दे नो व्हाट नैरेटिव यू हैव टू प्ले आउट इन द मीडिया. ओके, बट इंफॉर्मेशन इज गोइंग इन अ डिफरेंट वे. अच्छा, अब तुम इसको कैसे कर सकते हो? सिंपल ये कर दोगे, इन बिटवीन वही फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट ने किया, गैग ऑर्डर इशू कर दिया, कोई भी मीडिया से बात नहीं करेगा, खाली एक डेडिकेटेड ऑफिसर वो बात करेगा. अभी वो बेचारा ऑफिसर परेशान, महाराष्ट्र में उसको 80 कॉल आ रहे हैं जर्नलिस्ट से. अच्छा, वो सबको क्या बोलता है, भाई एक काम करो, बताना मत, तुम उस ऑफिसर से बात कर लो, वो तुमको सब इंफॉर्मेशन दे देगा, ठीक है, बस उसको कोट मत करना, तुम मेरे को कोट कर देना. So somewhere you have to build in, I mean, because you're talking about the communication field, you will have to, and see, आज तुम बोलो कि फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट का काम खाली फॉरेस्ट को प्रोटेक्ट करना है या बायोलॉजिस्ट का काम खाली रिसर्च करना है, नहीं बॉस. You have to look at communication in a different way. You have to approach people. You have to start engaging with different people. There was this discussion going on that, जैसे अभी, I mean, so many times, there are research papers that is coming out or some work that is being done. Now, it is how many times a biologist or a researcher takes effort to go and explain to a common person on the field. मतलब एक खेत तुम बता दोगे कि नहीं यार ये तो माइग्रेशन का पीरियड है, ये यहाँ से हाथी यहाँ जाता है, ठीक है, ये तो उसका नेचुरल पाथ था, ये तो कॉरिडोर था, एक टाइम पे कॉरिडोर हुआ करता था. लेकिन यार एक किसान है जो वहां पे काम कर रहा है, जो शायद साल भर की में 5 लाख रुपए का उसने गन्ने का खेत लगाया वहां पे, एंड नाउ दैट एंटायर थिंग इज डिस्ट्रॉयड. Now, if you go and talk to that person that no, this was a traditional migratory route, this was supposed to be a corridor, you guys have come and encroached on it, probably this is what's going to happen. I mean, that guy is going to beat the shit out of you. I mean, he is not going to listen to you. That yaar tum meko. Now, that is where again communication. Why do half of the whether it is a forest department officer or whether it is a biologist, why they do not want to get into discussion with the common person? Because वो अपने लेवल से उस लेवल तक पहुंचते ही नहीं है, और जो वो करता है, जो उनके साथ उस लेवल पे बात करता है, see, always they are successful. I know so many case studies across the country where the forest department staff are working excellently with the community because they have gone to their level. it is like that. Another simple example, Uttarakhand में वैभव सिंह करके हैं, IFS. Now, when we were discussing that, so हम लोग का एक सेशन हो रहा था और उसमें भी, and this is the thing. Now, what do you do? अगर जंगल में आग लग रही है, ठीक है, तो तुम क्या करोगे? जंगल बचाओ, वन को मत जलाओ. I mean, you will put those ancient, मतलब even I would not be interested in, though I am 82 born, I would not be interested in reading those captions. Save earth, save forest. कोई पढ़ता नहीं है. Immediately, I think what they did, and it went viral on Facebook, and I mean on social media, they put Gabbar ka thing. They put Nana Patekar कि आओ तमाशा देखने आ गए, ठीक है, जंगल जल रहा है, and those kind of dialogues, विद्या बालन का एक from Dirty Picture छोटा सा डायलॉग लेके डाल दिया. So the way you communicate now, you're not communicating in 1982 1970s, okay, you're communicating in 2021. यहाँ पे आज सबके पास एक सेल फोन है, सबके पास स्मार्टफोन है, everybody is on WhatsApp. So what are you doing to communicate with those people? So I think that is what will usually change, the way things are communicated. So I mean, when you just say that, okay, change things, how do we change things? What is the effort being taken to communicate with people like that? I mean, I'm sure when our parents used to interact with us or teach us something, it was different. Now, when I have to deal with, I'm sure when you have to deal with your kids or I'm dealing with my kid, it is absolutely different the way they want to interact. So communication is changing. So we'll have to pick this up, whether it is biologists, forest department, everybody who wants to engage with the media, understand how do you, communicate with journalists, how do you plan a strategy, and then go about doing it. Sorry for such a long, big answer for this.
What you said is taking the information to the local people. I just would like to give an example before I ask the last question. The same thing that we published a paper on scorpions, we gave them a particular name, and we made it sure that the media people, especially the print media, the local newspaper, so we made it sure that the news goes out to that level. And there was a very, I would say, not funny, but very interesting incident that the first author who got described the species, and the person, the maid who used to work at his place, he asked her, "Sir, I read in newspaper about this. Are you the same guy? They have written to your name. Are you the same guy?" So the news reaching to that level in the right manner, I guess, was a big achievement for us. Reaching out to media people. So in the same way, media is still having a huge impact. Print media and media, social media, everything. So I think all of us coming together in giving right information to media, I guess, can still create a huge impact on common people, because that is where they get their information from rather than from private or from foreign parties. So I think that is the end point that yes, sir, we can.
Just the example that you gave was perfect. I'll just tell you, there's also amongst forest officers or amongst researchers, again, I mean, it's a very common thing that happens. There's also this fascination to get be spoken about only in English newspapers. Now, that is a huge problem that happens, because you only want to be read in Times of India or an Indian Express or there's no problem with it. But the thing is, you cannot ignore the regional media. Now, the whole thing that you described. Now, imagine. I mean, you would again agree to this. Now, this is such a big problem of people quoting the amount of, say, for example, a pangolin is confiscated. Media ends up saying that, okay, this pangolin was for XYZ amount. Now, if you do not communicate this to a regional newspaper, so what happens is target is, अरे यार English newspaper के साथ जो journalist है उनको बुलाओ because ये लोग पढ़ते हैं. That is a big misconception. It is. I mean, language newspapers are read by masses, and that is where you have to reach. So I just wanted to say that, we should not ignore the language newspapers, in our daily pursuit also.
And not just that, I'm also saying social media and all other news media also. People are nowadays reporting on smallest incidences that are happening in wildlife, on maybe giving them 10-second, 15-second bite on a TV. So I guess things are changing, but as you said, we need to be even more proactive and give out the right information. But I guess this was overall a good session and good understanding about how media and wildlife work together. So thank you, Virat, for joining in today and talking to us on the aspects of media and wildlife. And thank you, everybody, for joining in today. I'll be sharing this video on Instagram, and I'll be also posting this on YouTube and Facebook and coming, so you'll be able to watch it later. So thank you everybody for joining in today. See you next weekend, mostly on Saturday. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Nikhil. And this is the perfect way of communicating to people about different subjects. So whoever's coming here, so this is a very good platform that you started of sharing, I mean, interacting with different people and helping people, others understand how things work. So brilliant job, man.
Thank you, Raj. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Take care. Thanks so much.